Welcome to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. My name is Stefanie Dingbaum. I am a mental health therapist, and I am so passionate about all things health and wellness, personal development, and empowering others to be their most authentic and best versions of themselves. Here at Therapeutic Intentions, we are all about having intentional and authentic conversations on whole body health, healing practices, mindset, and ways to uplevel your life so you can truly be the best version of you. If you are a woman, a mom, hope to someday be a mom, a healer, or just in a place where you want to start prioritizing yourself and your health, then this podcast is for you. I am so glad you're here. If you're ready, let's get to it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. You guys, I'm so excited to be able to tell you this. This is my first official collab episode with the Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. I'm so excited because I have Liz Garcia here today. And before I give her a chance to introduce herself, I just want to say Liz Garcia has not been in my life for that long. Like, just be told, I met her via Instagram, and then I met her in person about, 6 months ago, maybe. It might be give or take. But I once was listening to a podcast, and this podcast was talking about, get in touch with your expanders. Find those people that are the future version of you, of what you want to be doing. And so I just sat down one night with my journal and was like, okay, what's the future version of me for therapy? Wrote a few names down. What's the future version of me for podcasting? Wrote a few names down. She was one of them. So I literally, on a whim, reached out to her and just simply was like, can we get lunch? Can I pick your brain about podcasting? And truth be told, I, at that point, had recently started listening to her podcast, probably within a few months of that. But yeah, she took me up on the offer. We had lunch together one day, and I feel like it's taken off from there. We support each other's podcasting journeys. She's going to get her bio, but she's getting into the entrepreneurship world, which I just think is so freaking exciting. It's just nice to have other business friends in the business world who are also doing what you're doing. So anyways, I'm going to give the mic over to Liz, and you can give a little bio about yourself. Yes. Thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, Stefanie, thank you for having me, by the way. And I have to tell your listeners, I am so just excited and glad that you had, I always talk about the 5 seconds of courage, right? Have the 5 seconds of courage to say hi to someone.
Yes.
And for you reaching out to me, it was honestly such a compliment.
Good.
So thank you.
Good.
But it was you and I, we grabbed lunch at Brew and Brew in Dyersville, Iowa. And it was instantly when we met, when you meet someone that just, you have the same energy, it's just, you can feel it. And so I could just tell after we had lunch, I was like, we're going to be friends. Yes. It's going to be such a long-lasting friendship. So thank you for having me. So this is such an honor, especially to be your first collab on your podcast. I'm so happy for you.
Well, complete transparency, and you guys will learn the name of her podcast here shortly, but Liz quite literally lit a fire under my ass to start this podcast. You'll understand the humor in that here shortly. But yeah, Liz is monumental in my journey. So
because you the first mention that you had that you were starting a podcast, I'm like, when are you starting it?
Yeah.
When's it happening?
Yes.
And then I think you were like, oh shit, now I have to keep myself accountable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Liz knows now. So
yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, a little bit about me. So you guys, my name is Liz Garcia. I am co-founder and owner of GW Spice Co. And our company, we sell dry salsa mixes, dry dip mixes, and taco seasoning. And we really focus on fundraising. And we also sell direct to consumer. But kind of quick background with our business is, we were like, okay, well, what's a problem out in the market? What's something that, what's the solution to fix it? And when we would have our neighbor kids come to our door, we're like, how are kids and organizations selling the same 3 to 5 products that we sold as kids decades ago? Especially if you're from the Midwest, it's usually the butter braids, the frozen pizza, the cookie dough, the popcorn, and the chocolate bars.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, there's got to be something a little bit healthier out there too, let alone long shelf life. And long story short, we ended up going through different companies, products, and we landed on these dry salsa mixes and dry dip mixes. And I'm like, especially in the Midwest, who doesn't love dip and salsa?
Yes.
Right. And so, and the products were delicious. And so we landed on it. And so here we are. Like we basically have been in business we launched it about 2 years ago, started the LLC. I ended up having a job transition. So things kind of went on the back burner. And then here we are. We officially launched last year and we've got 4 fundraisers happening right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you guys haven't tried her dips, I'll put information in the show notes, but seriously, they're amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, well, I'll probably mention this later on, but for today's like listeners, I'll include a link to get a free sample.
Okay.
So, but yeah, a little bit more about me. So like that was the business. And I grew up in Potosi, Wisconsin, which is a teeny tiny little town in the southwestern part of Wisconsin, really close to like the Iowa and Illinois border. And you know, I guess as far as like background and stuff, I was a 3-sport athlete all 4 years of high school. I was very driven, very, you know, passionate about certain things. And so then I ended up going to college at University of Wisconsin-Platteville for graphic design. So my creative background, which we'll probably get into in a little bit, it's really helped boost my creativity and just coming up with new ideas.
Yes.
And it's just been really impactful for my business today.
And you're so good at it.
Yeah.
The creative stuff.
Yes. But other than that, like I have 2 young redheaded kiddos. They are fiery. That I always tell people like that red hair does not lie.
Yep.
And my husband and I live in Monticello currently, halfway between Dubuque and Cedar Rapids area.
Awesome.
So yeah, It's just a little snippet about me and my life.
And she has her own podcast.
Yeah.
You're also a podcaster of other hats. So her podcast is the Light Your Fire podcast. If you guys haven't given it a listen, find it. It's on all major platforms. So definitely listening to her podcast, I'm not even kidding. It does light a fire under you. So if you're a mom, give it a listen because I guarantee you could really benefit from some of the things she talks about for sure. So what I'd like to start with, Liz, is just kind of understand your journey, like how you got to here. I mean, complete honesty, Liz, she kind of amazes me, you guys. Like, she has so many hats that she wears in her life. So I guess I'm curious, what got you to where you're at today? What was that journey like?
Yeah. I mean, I think at least with entrepreneurship, it's almost like you were born with this gut instinct of, you know, you were meant for more.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, I've always had that inner knowing a little bit, or that nudge to be like, okay, I know I'm meant for something bigger than myself. And so I've always had that growing up. Like I have been in network marketing for over 10 years. And I've just really had such a passion for sales and working with people and making a difference along the way. So it's like, I've always kind of had that little nudge here where I wanted to do something beyond the corporate world. But I wasn't quite sure what that was going to be or what that looked like. And, you know, it was really a couple years ago where something like a big life event happened that literally lit the fire under my butt. And so it really all stemmed from, we found out we were expecting our second child. It was like New Year's Eve of December 2021.
Okay.
And when we were 7 months pregnant with it was going to be then son, Luca, we found out that my husband ended up being diagnosed with stage 1 testicular cancer.
Wow.
And so it was like, you know, this huge wave of emotions, right?
Yeah. At 7 months.
Oh
pregnant.
my gosh. Well, yeah. And, you know, when you say your vows, like obviously you mean them, but you just don't anticipate big life events actually happening to you.
Yeah, especially that. I mean, that's still fairly early in a marriage.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like when you say in sickness and in health, mean it, but you're like, holy crap, like, you know, you see things happening to other people and you know what happens, but like, you just don't expect it to happen to you, especially so soon. And so long story short, he had the cancer diagnosis when we were 7 months pregnant with our son. And so he went through the whole thing. He had surgery to remove the tumor. And then he ended up starting chemotherapy when our son was 4 weeks old.
Wow.
So it was such a wild, you know, roller coaster of emotions. Because it's like, you know, for me, it was at that time before we found out about his cancer diagnosis, you know, he was the one kind of taking care of me and I'd be on the couch because I'd be tired from being pregnant. And then all of a sudden it was like a light switch of, holy crap. Yeah. Like it literally felt like that. We're like, okay, like we have to take care of you and your health. But anyway, so after he had the chemotherapy, a couple months later, so that all happened in like September of 2022. And then a few months later, 2021. And then a couple months later, like that following February, we received the final, like he had a CT scan, everything came back clear. So like that was the final, like, okay, he's in remission, like he's good to go, which was such a big weight off of our shoulders. But what was interesting about that month, it was a couple weeks later, and I can still visualize myself. Like for my former corporate job, I was in Ames, Iowa, sitting on a hotel bed, and I just felt this pit in my stomach because I was like, I didn't realize it, but I was going through postpartum depression.
Oh, okay.
And so I wasn't happy with my body, you know, because I was how many months postpartum, and, you know, it was all the feelings. Like I just felt like I was in such a big mental rut. But it was like in that moment where it was truly that draw the line in the sand where I'm like, I can get myself out of this rut. And so I was like sitting there, I'm like, okay, I'm done throwing my pity party.
Good for you.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's okay to throw a pity party for a little bit. I will say, just give yourself grace.
Yep.
But pick yourself back up.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, what can I do at this point to get myself out of this rut? And so ultimately, that's where I then started binging podcasts. Because I was like, you know, at the time for that corporate job, I had a lot of window time because I was traveling to like Iowa State for work, Iowa State University. And so I had like 2-3 hours of window time. And I'm like, well, how about instead of listening to the radio, maybe I'll binge podcasts, you know? So it's a little bit more useful time. And truly, like, that's what helped catapult me out of the rut. I came across someone named Keisha Get Married.
Oh, love her.
And she's the Empower Her podcast. I'd highly recommend you guys. Feel free to check that out in the show notes. And I just loved her positivity, what she was all about. And long story short, she ended up offering, I think this was it was April. So literally 2 months after I was going through this rut.
So wild.
She was offering this 4-week intro to podcasting course. And I sat there and I'm like, it intrigued me. I'm like, ooh, that sounds kind of cool. And then really I was like, why don't I just do it? Like, instead of saying like, what's the worst that can happen? I was like, what's the best that can happen?
Yes.
And so I went for it. I'm like, at the end of the day, even if I don't start a podcast, like I at least know how to, right? And so I literally took the 4-week course, launched the podcast 2 weeks after, and here I am. I'm recording my 92nd episode.
That's amazing.
Or 91st episode,
Oh,
so
that's so awesome.
So that's kind of the long story to like, but it really is about the message here is, you know, for my circumstance, it was a really life altering event that gave me such a unique perspective that life is too short, right? Like the cancer diagnosis was almost like a holy shit, like life truly is too short not to chase after the things that light you up. And so my whole perspective was both my husband and I have been very entrepreneurial, and we know we've wanted to have a business. And so that's really where we're like, okay, like we really need to start seriously considering doing something on our own if it's going to bring us the passion and joy that we think it will.
Yes. Awesome.
So, and
wow.
Yeah. So that we really launched GW. It was actually a couple of months. It was not too long after I launched the podcast that we decided to, you know, do the LLC for the business. And
very cool. I didn't realize you did them that close together. That's huge.
Yeah.
Very cool. Such a good story. So you do currently though balance a lot in your life. I mean, when I said earlier that you wear so many hats, like I'm not exaggerating that. You guys, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's an amazing friend, she's a mentor to me, probably others too. She's still working the corporate world. Now she's getting into entrepreneurship. She's a podcaster. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing some. I'm just curious, how do you do all of this? I'm sure there's some listeners out there who are just like jaw dropping. How do you do it all?
It has been such a work in progress. And I'll be the first to say, like, it has balancing everything on top of raising 2 young kids, on top of trying to be a present wife and mom has truly been one of the biggest challenges I've ever done.
I bet.
And it's not easy. Like, I absolutely have the days where I'm like ugly crying in our closet every now and then, be like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? What am I here for? I'm sure all of us can relate to that at some point.
Yes.
But I have really learned to tweak things and really truly taking it day by day and figuring out, okay, where can I squeeze in time so that way I truly can have that work-life balance? Because I'll be honest, like when I started the podcast, it was pretty time consuming, right? Like it was a brand new skill. I had never done it before.
Right.
And especially at the very beginning, like I'm a recovering perfectionist. So hashtag recovering perfectionist tendencies for all of you guys out there. I feel you on that. Especially being a graphic designer, like I've been very meticulous. And so I almost had to like get over that a little bit. And it took a lot of just a lot of practice. Like it truly, in my opinion, it's like a muscle that you just have to keep working it, and then it gets easier and easier and easier. And so before, like I'd be recording on Sunday nights after the kids went down and stuff, but I'd be recording for like a couple hours and editing. And so then I wasn't spending time with my husband at night. Well, now fast forward 2 years later, it's like I'm usually recording sometimes now on like a Monday morning, for example. And for my corporate job, I'm usually not locking in until 9. So it's like a 9 to 5 job. And so now I'm actually hammering out everything after I drop the kids off for school. And then my husband's already, himself clocked in for work by like 8 o'clock. And so it's like, I'll hammer that out. So it's honestly about taking a look at almost every single hour of your schedule and figuring out, okay, where can I actually squeeze it in? Especially if, like for us, like one thing I'm working on right now myself is I watch so much dang TV at night.
Sure.
Like Netflix and whatever I'm binging. And so my piece of advice is truly take a look at your schedule and try to time block little pieces here and there. Not even just if you've got a side hustle, but even joy. And I know you and I, like, we're going to definitely dive more into that today on today's episode, but I have been focused more on filling my cup up in between to then give me the burst of energy not only throughout the day, but, it just makes your whole week better.
Yeah.
And so that's like one piece of advice that in terms of me being able to squeeze all this in, it's been a lot of practice. It's been a lot of falling on my face and failing forward.
Absolutely.
And one quote that I've kind of coined over this last year is messy consistency is greater than inconsistent perfection. I'm going to repeat that because you guys, when I heard something similar like this a couple years ago, I'm like, that's so good. So messy consistency is greater than inconsistent perfection. And basically it's kind of the idea my husband says all the time, done is better than perfect.
My husband says that too. So crazy.
And like, I constantly have to remind myself of that, right? Like, if I at least just get it done, I can always tweak it later. Nothing's going to be perfect. And at the end of the day, if you're waiting for things to be perfect, it's probably not going to happen.
Yes.
And then you're going to kick yourself later on being like, oh, I should have, would have, could have.
Right. No, I completely agree. Like for the podcast, we're getting into like affiliate marketing. And it's literally like, I'm just waiting for the perfect time to record like an ad.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect. Just do it. Just record it. Put it out there. Like you're always waiting for like the perfect time or waiting for it to look perfect on Canva or, whatever it is. And you just got to jump in. That's funny that you brought that up because my husband always reminds me of that too. And I feel like our listeners can probably benefit from hearing that too. No, you give really great advice because I think everybody listening, myself included, like we're all juggling so much in life, whether you're a mom, not a mom, like you're still juggling so much. Right. And I mean, I know for me personally, like just with owning my own business and doing therapy and all the things, like it just feels overwhelming sometimes. And what I love about social media is I feel like we're seeing more and more authenticity. Like I feel like, it always used to be like you're just seeing the highlight reels, and then it's so easy to compare yourself to others because, their life looks so perfect. But what really drew me to you initially with your Instagram page was you were showing the good and the bad, like the pretty and the ugly, but you were showing those low moments that you were hitting, but you were also authentic on both sides, good with the advice, but also real life gets messy. Real life is hard and having those meltdown moments, not being afraid to put yourself in front of the camera and show those moments. Yeah. I think that's what really draws people to your page, honestly, is because you're not afraid to show it both. We're not just seeing your highlight reel day in and day out, I think that's huge. It's something I myself kind of struggle with, but it's nice to see other people like influencers out there not being afraid to show it. Right. I just think that's a hard thing to do initially when you're first getting out there on social media land. And
the reason I do that too, and I think this is really important, is because I think initially, because I'm very much like, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and my husband definitely does not. And so I think sometimes there's not necessarily judgment, but it's like, why do you want to put yourself out there that much?
Yes.
And you guys, this is the reason why when I have seen other, quote, influential people in my life get really vulnerable and raw, it makes me feel less alone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, holy crap, like that person's going through the same thing I've gone through. And so
yes.
it's almost like that instant relief of, okay, they're going through it too. If they can make it through, I can make it through it. That is the core reason why I'm so vulnerable on there. And so, and it's, you know, it's one of those things where it's like you don't know who you're making an impact on.
Right.
And it's like, if it's made an impact on me, it's got to make an impact on at least one person out there that day who needed to hear it from me in the way that I say it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I get vulnerable, because I'm like, and I think part of it too is like, if I am crying, because I have had a reel where I'm like almost bawling, like breaking down in the bathroom and stuff. And I'm just, but it's also a release, right? I think it's good to see that, where it's really good to cry it out sometimes, because you're releasing those emotions. And you know, if you're into like woo, like part of it, there is a lot of connection with like the nervous system and all of that. And you just have to get it out sometimes. And so that vulnerability is really just to prove like, hey, you're not alone.
Right.
It's okay to get out there. And, you know, there's support.
Yeah. There's something to be said about, you know, not being afraid to be vulnerable, so people know like you're not a robot. You know, like we feel the emotions too. Like that makes you seem more real, more lifelike, you know, especially when you're seeing a lot of the good stuff, and it's easy to think like your life is so together, you know, it just makes you seem more real, you know.
And I think that's important too, because like, so you guys, for me, I have always been a half glass full type of girl. Always have taken the positive side. Always, which is amazing. But then sometimes I feel like it does look a little glossy, like on an Instagram, right? Where it's like, you know, I post stuff that's positive on there because it's like, that's what I want to put out in the world.
Yes.
And so that's where sometimes I do want to pump the brakes to like put more vulnerable posts out there and be like, hey, this is real life too. And it's part of the evolution, right? Part of the growth process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And so obviously the podcast is big about whole body health and wellness. So I guess I'm just curious, what are some things that you do amongst balancing everything in your life to maintain your positivity, your mental health? What kind of tips can you give listeners to help them maintain mental health, physical health, spiritual health, all of it, you know?
Yeah.
Amongst everything that they're balancing in their life. Like what has worked for you? What's been beneficial for you in your life?
Yeah, I love sharing tips, because it's like, if it has worked for me, you know, maybe it could help one of you guys. And I, especially with as much as I have on my plate right now, like it really has been difficult sometimes to squeeze in like more health stuff. So what I have currently done is, first and foremost, I wanted to make a comment about working out in general. I have really had to rewire my brain and getting over the fact that movement in general counts. It doesn't have to be a HIIT workout. It doesn't have to be weights. You know what I mean? Like I had this and I used to lift weights in high school, because I would, like I said, 3-sport athlete, like I was very into that, but I really had to get over the fact of even 10 minutes on the treadmill, you guys, can boost your creativity, can boost your dopamine. These little things throughout the day truly add up. And so it's like, especially being a mom of 2 young kiddos, that's where I now do have to get creative, because I can't squeeze in a 60-minute workout in it anymore, you know? And so sometimes it's just squeezing in that time for like the treadmill, and then maybe I'll do like a quick 5-minute meditation. Even though 5 minutes might not seem long, holy crap, is it wild? Like how much it can just reduce your stress levels. And so yeah, like a couple of things that I'll do in real life. So a lot of times I'll be on the treadmill for like 10 to 30 minutes. This is a great tip, you guys, by the way. If you catch yourself right away, and this used to be me in the morning, first thing when you wake up, are you checking your phone? Be honest, right? And so instead of being on your phone for 5 to 15 minutes, I'm now getting my butt out of bed, getting on the treadmill and checking social media.
Good.
And so what's funny is, like, especially if it's on like Saturday morning or something, I'll be like doing a reel, right? And I'll create it and I'll get it posted. And all of a sudden it's like 20, 30 minutes later, I'm like, holy crap, now I've burned how many calories? Like, this is such a win-win. That has been amazing. So that's one example. And then other things would be, and I always mention like substitutions.
Yes.
And especially like even when you think of food, and this kind of brings in our GW Spice Co product a little bit.
Absolutely.
So one example is, so with our our dry dip mix, you do 1 scoop of the dry dip mix and add it to either 1 cup of sour cream or non-fat Greek yogurt, and then a little bit of mayo. I actually having non-fat Greek yogurt in our fridge has been a huge transformation in our family this last year, which I know it sounds wild, but like we used to always have sour cream and cream cheese in our fridge at all times. I'm from Wisconsin, you guys. I'm a big dip girl.
yeah, that makes sense.
And so we started like substituting that out for non-fat Greek yogurt, even for like when we do like taco salads or tacos for Taco Tuesday. So instead of doing sour cream, we're doing non-fat Greek yogurt. To me, it tastes the same and you're cutting the calories. So it's like, that's one really tiny example. But man, if you think of all the calories that we're saving after a year, you don't realize how much you're shaving off.
Yeah.
And then another example, I'm so big about environment, you guys. And so at night, usually a couple of things that I do just to boost not only inspiration, but it just puts me in a better mood is either lighting a candle in the kitchen. And then we've got these super cute patio lights outside.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are the same way, but when I'm driving by a restaurant and they've got the cute patio lights, I'm like instantly drawing. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we have them in our backyard.
So it's just little things like that. And I put those lights on almost every single night because I'm like, it's a little boost here, like dopamine hit here. So it's like all these little things that add up. So that's just kind of a quick rundown. I know I kind of got on a side tangent there off the health topic, but it really adds up, especially for your mental health.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, there's so much to be said about substitution. I mean, like you mentioned in your story, like substituting podcasts for music. I mean, so many great songs out there that you can listen to. But I don't know, if you're into personal and professional development, it's like, gosh, I'd rather spend that 10 minutes listening to a podcast and taking that in. And yeah, that's a good substitute too. And similar to you with the treadmill, I will get up every morning and I take the dog for a walk. And then immediately after that, during the walk is when I do my affirmations and my gratitude and my prayers.
Love that.
And I always tell people, like, you don't have to make time for those things. Do it while you're doing something else.
Yeah.
And that's such an easy substitution. And there's so many things like that. And I'm sure in the mom world, you're doing that with so many different parts of your life. But there's so many things like that you can substitute instead of making time for an additional thing or activity or task. Absolutely.
Well, and for a couple more tips, because I love sharing tips. Like if it's going to help someone, I'm going to share. And so if you guys can think of like different times throughout your day where you can definitely multitask. One would be in the shower, right? If you want to do affirmations in the shower, putting on makeup, like even if you're only doing makeup for like 10 minutes, I've been listening to an audiobook when I do makeup, right? And so like that's where it's not like have you heard of like habit stacking almost too? So that's from James Clear from Atomic Habits. Oh my gosh, so good, you guys. So basically it's like almost a prompt. Like when you complete this task, then it's going to prompt you to do the next thing, right? So it's like, anyways, it's just awesome to be able to squeeze in more throughout your day without it truly taking up much more of your time. And that's where I feel that you can really gain a ton of momentum throughout your day and feel successful, right? You want to feel like you're making improvements and getting to where you want to go.
Absolutely. Those are all really good tips for sure. I also want to mention, so as a mom of 2, I feel like you do such a good job of taking care of yourself and your whole body health. I think it's easy. I'm not a mom yet, but I think it's easy for moms to put their own health needs, whatever it might be, on the back burner because you need to take care of the littles at home. And I totally get that mindset, but it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, I think that's a story that women tell themselves is I have to put the kids first.
Right.
My needs have to come last. But that does not have to be the story we tell ourselves. And I feel like you do such a good job. Like you're there for the kids, you're taking them where they need to go, going to their activities and whatnot. But you also are very intentional about making time for you.
Yeah.
I know from what you've shared, like you've gone to appointments for like chiropractic care, physical therapy.
Yeah. Prenatal, postnatal, PT. Yep.
You get massages from time to time. Yeah. Have you done acupuncture?
Reiki.
Yes. So like you're taking care of your spiritual health, your mental health, emotional health, physical health.
Yeah.
That to me, you do set such a good example in that way. Has that been how you've always been, or did that take some convincing to get yourself to think it's worth putting in the time for myself.
Right.
Because that's either going to those appointments or either taking away from being at home or work. I mean, what's your mindset then around making that time for yourself as a mom?
Yeah, it's definitely been a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Like I've always been on the go, and I don't wear that as a badge of honor. I've had to get over that because I really did wear it as a badge of honor. Oh, I'm doing all this stuff, building the resume, you know, and I've had to really get out of that mindset of no, like my health has hit walls from doing too much and having too much on my plate, and it's been even the last couple months, you guys. I have been sick on and off just with like seasonal allergies, and I had strep throat twice in the last 6 months, and my husband and I have had conversations, and it's like I'm out for the count when I'm getting sick with that stuff. And so that's where I've had to really reevaluate what I'm doing, especially very recently. And a friend of mine actually, gosh, this was probably about a month ago now, she had recommended the book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo.
Yes.
And I felt like I was getting so in my head of, oh my gosh, I'm getting sick every couple months, and like more of the it's happening to me mindset. And I'm usually with the mindset of it's happening for me, but you get in these funks, and I'm so glad she gave me the tough love and be like, you should probably read this book because it got me out of that. So I guess to really answer your question, it's more of, I don't want to have regrets in life.
Yeah.
And when you hear of people, there's a lot of different testimonials of people that are, in their 70s and 80s, asking them, what's your biggest life regret? And most of the time it's related to, I wish I didn't worry so much. I wish I didn't worry so much about money. I wish I would have experienced life more.
Yeah.
And it has put a lot into perspective for me, and I just don't want to regret not trying something. And that was part of my reason for, eventually I am going to be going full time with GW Spice Co.
Yep.
Not putting a date out there yet. I have one in mind, but I'm not putting it out in public yet.
Yep.
And again, I don't want to regret not trying it, and at least, allowing myself the opportunity to potentially have this thrive and succeed, and to just see where it could go, right? Like sometimes I think we feel like we're scratching the surface with things, and when you aren't putting your health first, you cannot pour your cup in, or you can't pour into other people,
right?
Especially if you're a mom.
Yes.
And that's really what I've kind of learned the long way. So what prompted me to start pelvic floor PT about 6 months ago is, over a year ago, my back, I had really, really severe lower back pain. And then it was like a couple more things happened, and I'm like, I have to do something about this. Cause I'm like, I can't be myself 100%. I can't be my energetic, bubbly, I'm very energetic, as you guys can probably tell. I'm an extrovert. And when I feel hindered on being able to perform at 100%, it drives me nuts.
Well, and even having two littles at home, they're going around, they're all over the place, and you can't keep up with them if you're in pain.
And I would catch myself sometimes if I was going through these kind of sick spurts, if you will, on and off, where it's like, I feel just regret of not being able to fully be there for my husband and kiddos. And so I'm like, I have to take my health seriously if I truly want to be fully present with them. And so it's it's that thing where it's one thing leads to another. And I am such a firm believer now. Do what you need to do, what's best for you. Even if you need to, if it's even just, my husband and I have talks about this every now and then. If the kids are driving us nuts, one of us will just maybe take the kids out for a little bit, so we can just have 15 to maybe 30 minutes of alone time to clear our head.
Yeah.
Seriously, do what you need to do to clear your mind, because it will massively impact not only the rest of your day, but truly the rest of your week, month, and potentially year.
Absolutely. And I just think that's such good self-talk to have, because I'm sure even if there are mom listeners out there, you make an appointment, let's say, to go to a Reiki session, and you're still going to have that self-talk of I really should just be home with the kids during this time. I shouldn't be doing this, but it's okay. First of all, our thoughts are not always being honest with us. We need to not always believe what the thoughts are telling us, but rewriting those thoughts to be like, no, then when I am home with them, I'm going to be more present. I'm going to be in a better state of mind. I'm going to feel better about myself in the current situation. And those appointments, there's a lot of value to that. And I do think you set the bar where it should be, as far as modeling, you take care of you so that you can be the best version of your mom, the best version
Right.
of a wife, the best version of a daughter
Yeah.
when you are home and around family.
You guys, one thing, so a good friend of mine, Alacia Citro, which she's amazing, by the way. She is in the process of writing her very first book, Higher Self Habits. I heard from her, gosh, this was probably, 2 years ago. On one of her podcasts, she made the comment around the topic of pain. And she talked about how there's always going to be pain with whatever you do. So is it going to be the pain of regret, or is it going to be the pain of having that little bit of discipline up front? And so that was really what was going through my head, especially when I had this lower back pain. I was like, holy crap, I have the pain right now and stuff, but am I going to regret it or pay for it later on if I don't do something about it?
Absolutely.
And Dr. Leslie Kramer, who I've been seeing both her and then Dr. Caitlin Smith at prenatal postnatal PT or prenatal postnatal therapy in Cascade, Iowa. Leslie talks all the time about, and I'm going to kind of botch this, but she makes mention of, if you don't do something, typically there's people that come to them with like symptoms, right?
Yes.
And kind of one of her thoughts is, how is that going to impact your life if you don't do something about it right now?
Mm-hmm.
And, when you think of your health, like if you make even the decision of having some, like, let's just say broccoli, you choose veggies over chips, right? Like, chips, oh my gosh, you guys, before I started going through my health journey 2 years ago, that was my weakness. Like I'd devour a bag of chips in a weekend. And so it's like the pain of discipline of not choosing that, or the pain of potentially having really bad health side effects where I'm in the hospital later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know that's kind of, but basically a little bit of a severe transition there.
A little dramatic.
A little dramatic. Thank you.
Good example, though.
But yeah, so I would just say, like, what is the regret of not doing that one thing that you should be doing?
Absolutely. And even looking at that mindset in terms of work, the work is never going to be done. There's always going to be something to do. But what I have told myself, and I feel like what more moms need to tell themselves, is it's not worth continuing to put that time in to doing the work at the detriment of your family, at the detriment of your health. And our bodies are constantly sending us signals, hey, take care of me, prioritize me. And I feel like we sometimes ignore those signs that come from our body. And if you don't take care of it now, then what's it going to be like 5 years from now?
100%.
How is that going to change? So yeah, agreed with everything you just said. Take care of yourself. Put yourself on the front burner from time to time. You're going to thank yourself in the long run. Your family's going to thank you in the long run. Just so many benefits from that. Yes, I agree. No, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I just feel like we kind of live in this like hustle culture, and I'm very anti-hustle culture. Like when I started my business, it was like, I'm going to have a successful business, but I'm also going to have work-life balance. Yeah. I'm going to have a successful business and be able to spend time on myself or with my family. It wasn't going to be like, I'm going to have to give up family time to have a successful business. I just refuse. Right. Yeah.
You can have the best of both worlds. Yes. It doesn't have to be picking and choosing this or that.
Exactly.
It absolutely can be and.
Yeah. And more women need to be preaching that, because I feel like it's about 50-50. I feel like there's people out there that definitely buy into that, but then I still feel like we have some of that, I call it like old-fashioned thinking, where it's like, no, you have to work your butt off to be successful. That's the story you're telling yourself in your head. But that doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot to be said around that too. And I feel like you just set a good example in that way. And we need more women setting that example and seeing those examples, not just on social media, but just in real life, I feel. So you mentioned your friend who,
Alacia.
Yeah. Okay. Can you say more about, you mentioned her,
her book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you say more about that?
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited for this. So kind of with like what's on the horizon a little bit in the future for not only me and GW Spice Co. and with having the podcast, like I was trying to figure out a way to kind of like marry the two together a little bit in terms of supporting other people, especially women entrepreneurs. And so I do plan on starting to host live in-person events this year. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. This is kind of a quick side tangent. Where I've seen the most growth in myself is not only after attending live in-person events, but it's really the connections that I've met at these events. because usually you're there surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are chasing after similar goals as you, where you don't feel alone, right?
Right.
I talk a little bit about the Midwest mindset, and I grew up in Wisconsin. I love the Midwest, you guys. It's such a great place to raise kids and to have that foundation of like great values and being kind and respecting, other people. But it's like sometimes if you do have big ideas, it feels like there could be outside judgment, right? Just kind of inside the box thinking. And that's just what people were usually raised with, right? Is that safety of staying within your comfort zone. And so, gosh, you guys, it's been such a catalyst for my growth. And if I have found the growth with myself by attending events, I so want to offer that for other people.
Right.
So that's where I'm going to be with Alacia Citro. So kind of some upcoming dates, you guys. So Alacia is going to be visiting. She currently lives in Arizona, and she has some family here in Iowa. So she's going to be coming, oh my gosh, the week of, I'll keep you guys posted on dates, but her and I are going to be offering a book signing event for her brand new book, Higher Self Habits. You guys, this is going to be incredible. She's just so amazing at sharing tips around habits, how to keep them long term. Not something that's just quick.
You guys, this is going to be a high vibing event.
Yes.
Like, you're going to want to grab your girlfriends and go to it because it's going to be great.
Details to come as far as dates. So dates to be determined, but more than likely it'll probably be around Thursday, August 15th or Friday, August 16th. More to come, dates to come, but that's on the horizon. Awesome. And then I'm also excited, you guys, the very first live podcast recording event / networking event that I'm going to be hosting will be the end of May. Again, date to be determined. More than likely it'll be Thursday, May 30th, probably from about like 6 to 8:30 at night. And I'll include more details with location, things like that. But
you guys, this is something that, like, since I knew Liz in the beginning, she was initially doing these more, I would say, like low-key events where she lives in Monticello, Iowa. Just like literally girlfriends getting together, having, what was it, Prosecco?
Prosecco on the patio.
On the patio, And so that's where she started. And now she's at this place where she's having a live podcast event. That's the transformation that has happened literally in less than a year.
Yeah.
So that is fire. That's amazing. You're really putting things into action. It just goes to show how if you meet the universe halfway, they'll meet you halfway, and then big things are going to happen for you. So
one of the main reasons I wanted to offer events, by the way, because I think this is important, is
definitely
just think about this, you guys. Like, you truly could be one person away, one puzzle piece, if you will, from helping you get you to that next level. And so that's what I found so inspiring about attending events myself, is I have found such an amazing support system to help me, uplift me on the days that I'm down, and celebrate the wins and all the above. And it's so incredibly important to have a really good support system. It's really for everything, your mental health, your physical health, all the above. So
I would agree.
That is why I want to host these events, to really help connect people who are meant to be connected, and just to help one another and to have some fun along the way.
Yeah, I love it. Just to piggyback off of what Liz just said, when I did like my podcast course, I still have women in that course who are supporting me and cheering me on from the sidelines. Then I did a business course, same, like I have some biz besties from that course that were supporting each other through the journey. And you guys, that's just so powerful. And just to be in a room with other like-minded individuals who are also really reaching for the stars, there's power behind that. So I think, like what Liz said, if you can go to an event, if you see value in it for yourself, just do it. Just bite the bullet. You're not going to regret it.
Yeah.
Such great things in the works. So just curious, are there any other future goals for you, whether it be with the business or with the podcast? I mean, these are pretty big goals already that you have in place, but anything besides, any other goals in mind?
This is to be determined a little bit, but I depending how these events go, because again, I'm just starting this to see how it's, I potentially might start more of like a monthly membership for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like it's just important to have that continuous support and just being able to share. Like, I love sharing tips, and it's like, what not to do? Like, what have I failed at? Like, it's like, I want to, I'm that person, by the way, you guys. I love fashion. It's been such a huge evolution for me with like just my mental growth and all of that. It's like my fashion's evolved. And so it's like, I'm the person where if I find this sweet outfit that is lighter, I'm like texting my girlfriends, be like, oh my God, guess what I found? You have to get this top.
Yeah.
And same thing in business though. If I find something that has helped me tremendously, I want to shout it from the freaking rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
So yes, potentially a future membership. I think I want to call it like the Expand Network, because I think it's just always, it's just amazing for us to always stretch ourselves to grow, to potentially go after that future version of ourselves that we've always wanted to be.
Yeah, I love the name. You're an expander in my life. So I think that's perfect for you. I love that. So Liz mentioned her fashion inspiration. Guys, if you are interested, she does this an email list that you send out, and it's so fun because I get to see her outfit of the week, and she has really good fashion inspiration. So if you want on that email list, definitely DM Liz, because it's just fun every Friday to like see that come into my email and see like, oh, what's the outfit this week?
Yeah.
Like, it's just fun. And then she sends links so you know where she got the items from and stuff. So
I'm that nosy person where if I see something cute, I'm like, where did you get that from?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I have no shame in my fashion game. I'm like, where'd you get that?
You have cute items. So definitely get on that list if you're interested in fashion yourself. I think it's fun. So, all right. Anything else before we conclude the episode?
No, but thank you, Stefanie, so much for having me on. And I just want to say you are such a light for everybody. I'm so excited that you are doing this. Like,
thank you.
Thank you. You're doing amazing things, and keep it up.
All right, guys. So just to wrap things up, we're going to do some rapid fire questions here at the end. Just complete transparency. Liz hasn't seen the questions, so we're just going to see what she has for answers. So just 5 quick questions. What's a book that you're currently reading?
Oh, I am reading, I was reading Atomic Habits. I'm currently listening to the audiobook, You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero.
It's such a good book.
It's actually a re-listen. I've already listened to it.
Okay.
And then I'm also at the same time listening to You Are the Placebo. And then I have to finish 2 Weeks Notice Yet by Amy Porterfield.
Wow, you're busy. Love it. What's one thing you can't live without besides your phone?
Oh my gosh. Well, my kids, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
My husband.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a go-to. So.
Yeah. Okay. What's your current go-to podcast?
Right now, I would say Earn Your Happy by Lori Harder. Her and her husband also has Chris Harder. They're both from the Midwest originally. I love listening to them.
Awesome. I'll link it in the show notes. What's one song you have to sing along to whenever it comes on?
Probably there's like Higher Love by Whitney Houston. I think that came on my Spotify playlist on my way over here before we recorded.
That's awesome.
Bring me a higher love. Okay.
Oh, that's
Nobody
a good
wants
one.
to listen
That's
to
a good one. I love that. All right. What's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
Oh my gosh. Epsom salt bath and like a candle lit and just like chilling.
Awesome. Liz, thank you so much. You truly are fire. Like both visually and emotionally, you're awesome. So thank you for being on here. Thank you for kickstarting my journey in the podcast world. And you guys, like I said earlier, give her a follow, give her podcast a listen, find her on social media. You won't regret it. So thanks for listening in today, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to us. It means so much to me. If there were any aha moments or anything that really resonated with you on today's episode, then please take a minute and share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you. Also, if you could, please rate and review the podcast as it is new, and that really helps to get the word out there more and reach even more listeners. I'll catch you on the next episode.